Starting in the 1970s, a countercultural movement would change the way music was made forever. From grassroots beginnings in the backwaters of Britain, a new DIY approach to music making would give rise to a whole new genre. Not just a sound, but an attitude and an ethos. This is indie. We'll discover why it spoke so perfectly to a generation and reveal how this music for misfits eventually came of age. One of the bands inspired by Buzzcocks were their fellow Mancunians' Joy Division.
Got to do a record, everybody else is doing it. It's what everyone was doing, so how hard can it be? Our first mistake was, in fact, the biggest mistake that we made about it was wanting to do 4 songs, and we didn't realise that cramming that much music on a tiny little disc made it sound a bit shit. We thought that'd be all right, value for money.
So long, sitting here, waiting for the tick to run.
We went to Pips, #1 in Europe, this disco in Manchester, which was doing new wave nights, you know, punk nights. It's like, put our record on, put our record on. And yeah, they'd just been playing all this loud music and they put ours on and it was sounding, what's this shit?
I need it.
But help was at hand in the unlikely form of a local TV presenter.
I didn't know what to make of Tony. Tony was very likeable and irritating on television. I mean, everybody in Manchester felt they knew Tony Wilson.
Yeah, that bloke off the telly, yeah, Tony Wilson. You know, he loved it. He loved it. He loved that people hated him.
He was great, you know, he was totally cool. I mean, it was a bit like, Tony was a bit like, you know, that kind of teacher at school who you know, would give you a go on a spliff or something, you know what I mean?
Oh, you know, he looked like a hairdresser to me, with kind of poncy hair, and, you know, he was a bit of an anomaly, really, wasn't he? He was such a genius guy.
Wilson was a complex person. The on-screen genial buffoon hid a man of serious intent. Inspired by punk and the Buzzcocks, he decided to set up his own label, Factory Records, in the South Manchester suburbs here on Palatine Road. In fact, in the front room of his mate's flat. It's the bay window, just up there on the first floor. And his business model couldn't have been more different to that of the established music industry.
It was a kind of offer you can't refuse. I mean, it was basically, right, you know, I'll pay for you to make a record. You own the music, and you can. His thing was, you know, it's all about artistic freedom, the freedom to fuck off.
Factory was not a business. It was a statement of intent against the prevailing forces. I do not know of a decision ever taken in the 14-year history of Factory that was based on profitability. Factory did things and Tony did things because it was possible to do them.
The thing about Tony is you always got the impression he's got big ideas. He always thought big. Factory's not, it's not just about records, it's about everything. He was very into Manchester. He always thought it was underrated. There was always like, fuck you, London. What you can do, we can do better, and we don't, you know, we don't need you.
Next, Wilson assembled a pool of talent to run the label. Martin Hannett, the old hippie who produced Spiral Scratch, would take care of the music, and he recruited a talented art school graduate, Peter Saville, to create Factory's distinctive look.
Everybody was living out their idealistic notion of what it meant to be in pop culture, to be effectively in kind of a form of pop art. What gradually began to evolve was this autonomous collective. Everybody did what they did the way they wanted to do it, without anybody telling them otherwise. And that applied to me, as it did with the musicians, as it did with Martin Hannett, the producer, as it did with Rob, the manager, and as it did with Tony, the kind of the impresario of it all.
With all the elements in place, the question now was, Would it work? Joy Division's and Factory's debut album, Unknown Pleasures, was to be the testing ground.
Joy Division were the band I'd been waiting for. They broke your heart when you listened to them.
To the center of the city where a road's being laid.
That bleakness, which, to be honest, you know, when you're in your late teens, early 20s, is very, very attractive. There was something mournful and soulful that people did come to associate with Manchester as well. You know, rain, mist, cloud, fog, smog, long raincoats, everything monochrome. It was as if that band had been forged in my imagination. It felt personal.
I don't think any of us really appreciated it at the time. We knew it sounded different, but in a way we thought it sounded a bit too different because it didn't sound like us.
Martin Hannett had an audio vision of what he wanted to create. And initially he took Joy Division as the raw material of his ideal. Unknown Pleasures is what Martin heard in Joy Division. It's not what Joy Division played, and it's not necessarily the way Joy Division heard it.
He'd taken it and he'd put it, he future-proofed it basically. He made it sound like nothing else. We just didn't appreciate it at the time. We just thought it sounded a bit bloody weird.
I thought it was awful.
Well, I didn't think it was awful.
Well, you're a bit disappointed then.
Yeah, we were disappointed because it doesn't. You'd always imagined it'd sound. You always got the idea in your head how it's going to sound.
That's the thing about doing music, isn't it, and recording.
And when it doesn't sound like that, you're disappointed.
You don't think that he's put his own brilliance and stamp on it, really. It's as though he's taken it off you and changed it all.
Yeah, and he's a twat.
I think it was absolutely crucial, you know, Tony Wilson's view of creating a northern empire. I mean, he was very political, and I think for people in the north was an incredible sort of badge of identity. I think Tony Wilson created something out of a paradox, this idea that we're rubbish, that, you know, we're nothing, and yet we are everything, and we are incredibly proud of that. And I think people really tuned into that paradox.